Welcome back to the National Soccer Network. We have a very special guest, Alabama FC, Birmingham United Executive Director Andrew Brower. Andrew, how are you doing here today?
I'm good, man. Thanks so much for having us on, and we appreciate the opportunity to be on the show.
Hey, we had a great college football discussion beforehand. I thought that was wonderful to get things rolling, but I thought this was a little bit more intriguing. You guys do an inaugural Birmingham United Alabama FC crawfish boil. Tell me what that's all about.
So we don't try to tax our members with a lot of fundraising, right? So it's not something we've ever been, in the world of club soccer, you're having to pay money to play and obviously do. So we want to try to keep it as feasible as possible. So one of the things we like to do is come up with events that raise money. So we started it a year ago, and I would call it Crawfish Bowl Light. And then this year did another one, significantly successful. They sold out of crawfish. I mean, it was some crazy amount of pounds of crawfish. And then we do a silent auction. We have a band playing. Our goalkeeping director moonlights as a singer in a band, and so we have a place that allows us to use it. One of our former players' parents. It's an unreal facility. And then for the people who don't like crawfish, they've got their own pizza sandwich station, and it's just a nice fundraiser and a good sense of community for our club. And it's turned out to be something that we really, really like, and sort of become something we're probably going to do two of these a year because people have such a good time. And then it becomes a good fundraiser for our scholarship program for our kids.
For someone who has never had crawfish or whatever it's called, I'm not a big seafood person. Never really had seafood. How would you describe it?
So crawfish is a real acquired taste, and
Okay.
and obviously, if you're from Louisiana, it's a religion. As you get farther to the coast, southern Alabama, southern Mississippi, also can be a religion. You would be scorned by not trying and liking. It's a lot of work. Number
Okay.
one, it's a unique thing because some people don't like that it's grimy and dirty because you're pulling apart things and sucking the head off and doing those types of things to get to it. But it's more something I would just say is a really unique experience, especially coming from Cajun cultures in Southeast Louisiana. But it's something that people love to do, and it's also just a community thing, right? So we were talking about college football earlier. You're talking about tailgating.
Yeah.
It also just brings people together because it's something that you don't have a lot. It's very seasonal. It's hard to get except for in this time period from March to May. And so because of that, there's a bit of a priority on getting it. And so sometimes it's hard to find because the season is so short to be able to get it.
All right, back into I love the food talk, but let's get into the real business. About you guys? Alabama FC, Birmingham United Soccer Association. What are the two differences there?
Yeah, so Birmingham United is the club and the business. When we took over, we grew substantially, and we realized we were going to have some footprints in other parts of the state, and so it was sort of sound redundant to have Birmingham and then another city name. So we just rebranded sort of all our competitive arms under the Alabama SC umbrella. So everything U8 and above, competitive academy, all the different prongs of leagues, ECNL, ECNLRL. We've been playing in the SECL U.S. Club Leagues in Atlanta. Those are all based on the Alabama FC name. And then we have a branch in Montgomery and we have a branch in Huntsville that we work with. We're a really small soccer state. Like we're one of the smallest soccer states in the country in terms of soccer population. So we look at us, we're like a high mid major, right, in the world of this giant footprint of U.S. soccer. Like we want to be Gonzaga, right? We want to always have some groups that are going to scare the life out of you, sometimes can beat you at all these different layers and levels, and then have the ability to produce kids that are, playing at a really high level, whether that's college, whether that's pro, whatever it is that may be, as we go forward.
How do you guys elevate, your guys' game in soccer? Because when I think of Alabama, I think of Roll Tide, Nick Saban, and all those guys, and Auburn in their couple of years for football. But I think of football when I hear the state Alabama. But you guys are soccer. How are you guys trying to elevate your guys' game and make a more competitive environment for the state?
Well, one, I mean, as I told you earlier, Roll Tide. I mean, I think you have to understand that this is a football state. and football is in the sense of American football. So I remember when I was growing up and playing. I mean, when I said I played soccer, I mean, you might as well have thought I had, horns on my head. Trying to explain that to people growing up in Birmingham, because football is an embedded part of your culture between Alabama and Auburn, and then all the other prongs. And we have really good mid-major programs here at Troy and Jack State that are competing to win titles as well. But just the Southeastern Conference is based out of here, so it's a big football mecca. So I think the thing we look at is, how can we grow this thing? I mean, a wild stat, right, is we have two kids that played in our club from Birmingham that potentially are on the World Cup roster this summer. And the World Cup being in the U.S., it gets crazy, right? And it's humbling at the same time because we can have kids that have success. It's just harder, right? The sheer number of people, that we have in our state doesn't mimic, a fifth of Atlanta's soccer population. And you're talking about the entire state, and we're not a small state. I mean, it's a decent sized state. I mean, we're like the 25th or 26th biggest state. So, from that standpoint, it's harder for us. And so we've got to be creative and thoughtful about what we do and then try to create a culture, which I think we've been able to do. And then that's been neat to see as you see things now from kids that generationally have gone through. And I've been with the organization for so long, you get to see all the different success stories of kids, whether that's in the game or the game utilized them to do something else, or whether it's outside of the game. And there's a lot of different things that, you get to see in my role. That's awesome to see kids have success, down the road in life. And I think that's helped to create a culture because now guess what their kids are doing? Their kids are playing and coming back and they're now coaching. And so that helps expand sort of the tree of soccer in the state of Alabama.
Who are the two players that might be on the USA roster?
So Tanner Tessman and then Chris Richards.
Chris Richards. Oh, that's right. Chris, I could see the Testman one. I thought he was from Alabama before we started this. Then your jersey's kind of behind you reiterated that. But for Chris Richards, that's right. Do either of those two kind of give back to the club at all, or are they just kind of
Chris does a lot of work with the USL team in Birmingham that we have a relationship with. Tanner's come back and done a couple camps. I mean, I just talked to Tanner's family a couple weeks ago in Tanner. I was at the USA Portugal game in Atlanta. And have a great relationship with those their family and talk to them all the time. So it's neat to see that. I mean, I knew Tanner since he was 3, and so to be able to see that life process is humbling, right? And it's also cool because it does show that hey, even in this small state, hey, there's opportunity for kids who do things the right way. And both those kids were kids that did things the right way, and ultimately when they got later on in their the end of their high school years. They went to MLS academies, which is what they should have done. And that was the right time. And they were good enough to do those things. And, you want to pat them on the back and say, hey, good job, because they did things the right way, just as good kids, good families, good humans.
How could you tell, because obviously you see, what pro players could look like. What are kind of some of the signs that you see like that kid is a pro player or could be a pro player?
I always say, look, it's easy to pick out the physical things, right? Like you can use those two kids, but I could take a kid. So I could take Neely Martin, who plays in the NWSL and starts and plays most 90 minutes, was at Gotham. She's the one that had to play in goal. It's a crazy story when the keeper got red carded and she has to go in goal the last 2 minutes of the NWSL finals and faces a free kick from Rose Lavelle at the top of the 18 with 10 men as the emergency kit. And she's playing in LA now. She's a unique one because she didn't look the part. She was a late bloomer. She grew late. So the physical gifts, right, are one thing, and you can see that in kids. Tanner had that. Chris had that. They were super athletic. I could talk about Gracie Fowler, who was a kid who just graduated from South Carolina, sort of in the same way. But the one thing I always tell people is that those kids didn't get there by accident. Those kids put in way more time than anybody, right? They put in more effort into more dedication to their craft, more time into training, or open to playing with other teams, would train with older teams, whatever it is, right? That DNA was sort of inherent in them. And so when you see kids that have some talent, the intangible thing at the top, I mean, because the margins are so small, is, hey, am I willing to grind a little bit? Am I willing to put a little bit more of a shift in? Am I humble? Am I a good citizen? And if I talk about all these kids that have had success, that's the one common denominator I see, is that they were all willing to do a little bit more. They all had the right attitude. They were all coachable. and they all had a good support system within their families as well.
Uh, you guys here at Alabama FC, you guys have academy, looks like ECNL, all that fun stuff. How do you kind of decipher, kind of where the players go? Is there set tryouts for everyone, or is it kind of just like where we think the best player fits?
Yeah, I mean we have tryouts every year in May, based on the different leagues. Like as the league season ends, there's tryouts there, and so we'll have a full fledged, trial process. We're about to go through that and throw in a birth year change this year. It makes it a bit more.
There's another one.
Well, they're putting it. They'll go into our trial process starting this
Gotcha.
year because we haven't. Our tryout doesn't start until May, so the new U.S. birth year mandate will go in and kick in again. So that'll be another prong in the trial process. So yeah, so that begins in May for us, and we wrap it up about a week and a half before Memorial Day. So we're about to get into the thick of that in the next couple weeks.
Uh, what would you say your guys' environment like? Is it win all the time, or is it just have fun and see what happens? What's your guys' environment like?
Well, we as a club do everything, so there's a little bit of everything, right? So we have a massive recreational population, as well in our organization. So obviously, that's fun, fun, fun. And maybe there's an attachment to one of the development prongs that somebody is an advanced recreational player or somebody that wants more can move into the academy thing. I think we've tried to do a really good focus the last couple of years of really hemming down and getting some of our better coaches working with our U8s, U9s, U10s, U11s, and be able to do that. I took a team at U9 and I brought them all the way up to U14, and we were blessed to be able to make it, get out of group in Seattle and win the knockout games and make it to the ECNL National Finals last year in Richmond. And so that journey has been fun and for that specific team, but also I think we've done a better job of that with our younger teams where there's a balance of really improving technique. And we've got to be creative how we do it because, from a competitive standpoint, our hardest part from U8 to 11 for our top teams is trying to find enough meaningful games in our area that doesn't require you to get in the car to go somewhere. And that's our biggest thing is how do you balance those things? And so sometimes we have to be creative in what we've done. I mean, this spring we created our own in-house academy league, with all of our U8 to 11 teams, which you don't get to play as many other teams from outside the club, but we actually created better games, and the right games. And so if you watch the games from a director standpoint, I can look at it and say, okay, well, we had 40% good games in the fall. We've had 70 to 80% good games. And so we have to be creative and come up with different things from time to time. And this is not something we're going to do all the time, but it made sense for where we are now.
What makes you guys different from every other soccer club, in Alabama or the country?
Man, that's a good question. I tell people this all the time. Like when I took over the organization, I have two kids that play now, right? They didn't play when I took over; they weren't born yet. I look at it as would I let my kid play for this coach, right? If my kid was playing, would I allow the kid to coach? And when I was honest, when I took over, I was probably 40%. I would let them play, right? And that's a pretty damning thing. And I think if club directors, if you ask that question, it'd be interesting to know what people thought about what the actual answer is to that. And I look at it now, that number's in the upper 90s. We have really, and so to answer your question, we have really good people who really do things the right way, who put themselves in a position to where they really care about the kids. They want to see the best of them off the field and as a human, and then that they want to see them improve as soccer players. And I think our leadership staff, we've done some things with our director staff, to where we really focused on as a business, we want to be like the Chick-fil-A of customer service when it comes to our director staff, right? How can we keep more of them engaged with different benefits that are not usually a part of the club soccer employment package or employment experience? And so I think there's some things like that. I think the other thing is we really keep up with our kids. Birmingham is a big city geographically. It is so small in the soccer community. Like soccer community is small to begin with, and it connects at all these different prongs in our own country. But Birmingham, it's microscopic, and so I think those relationships are there. Like we just had last week, one of our '98 ECNL alumni. She was in charge of picking up Artemis 2 from when it landed in the Pacific Ocean. She
Really?
flies Seahawk helicopters in the Navy out of San Diego, and
Wow.
she's the one waving to everybody on national TV that she picks that up. Like, well, I mean, I talked to Julia the next day, and that I think our staff does a really good job of staying engaged with kids as they graduate, and we have a lot of former kids that want to come back and work for us. I mean, we have two that are going to start next year, and people that want to help even when they're in college. Like, hey, what can I do? So, like, my wife helps with tryouts, organizing it, and to get volunteers to work tryouts takes like 5 seconds, and we'll have like 10 to 15 former kids be like, hey, I'd love to come help. So I think that's the unique thing that I think a lot of people can talk about that. I think it's real and genuine. And so, kids, I always tell coaches and parents, kids see through BS and see through lying faster than anything, right? And if you're genuine with kids, you're going to have a real experience. And I think our staff does a good job of that.
Wow, you guys got all the alumni, players, military. Wow, you guys are all over the
Hey,
place.
we're hustling, man. We're hustling.
You kind of led into my next question here. If a kid were to go the full length at Alabama FC, right from the recreational, they make it all the way to ECNL academies, whatever, into their high school years, and then they're done. What are a couple takeaways you would want those kids to have in their Alabama FC experience?
So it was really interesting. We don't do it every year, but like it was either a year ago or 2 years ago. We actually did a tracking of all the graduating kids, and we've had some different additions to the club where we've added some geographic areas. So it's always hard to come up with the true metrics. But we had this insane amount of kids that went like Sunday soccer, 3, 4, 5-year-olds all the way through. And the thing I think the thing you want to take away from that is can you use like what our buzzword, like our kind of club motto is empower, enrich, and excel, right? You really want to use the game so that they're empowered with a boldness and self confidence that they can do what they want to do in life, right? The sports is a great tool for being able to see, hey, how do I deal with adversity? How do I deal with things that go well, right? How do I deal with success, right? How do I deal with having to work within a team? How do I have to communicate? Because this generation has a harder time with verbal communication
Yeah.
because of devices. And so I think that's where sports is good. And I think ultimately when they have that experience through competition, through hopefully people that poured into them, I just went to like my son yesterday. I'll give you an example, and this is what I want out of our staff. His 5-year-old kindergarten teacher retired. This lady's unbelievable. She still comes to 5 or 6 like soccer games and basketball games of his a year. He's
Wow.
about to be in 8th grade, right? So I say this to say what our sort of prayer and our sort of ask out of, hey, what we want our kid is who are the people that are not his parents that pour into his life, right? And so I think that's kind of the thing that we want to see from the standpoint of, um, our coaching staff the same way.
You mentioned the whole, like, when you were playing soccer, someone probably would have thought you had horns growing out of your head, which I think is a really good analogy because at some points during my youthful years, which were like 5 years ago, I guess, a lot of people also thought that I was crazy because I played soccer. How have you seen the game of soccer grow in your state?
I think there's more opportunity. I think all the different prongs, right? Pro is a different thing now. It's more accessible. So that's a real thing more than a fantasy thing. I mean, like in 1994, I remember sneaking in a bar as a high school kid to watch West Germany play, right? Because I couldn't find it on TV, right? So now TV's made the game more accessible. Premier League's on, Serie A
Yeah.
is on. You can find it, and you can find games. So that's helped, I think, Alabama grow. And then college programs have grown and developed, and kids are going there, and people see that. And then that enables high school programs to grow, and there's more of those that are more tangible today. So I think you take all those things and put them into one vat. That sort of helps.
Gotcha. I like it. Last question, hardest one you got all day. If you could go to see any band or artist, dead or alive, who are you going to and why?
So I am a huge music person.
Okay.
So weather, music, sports. You give me a Jeopardy the right day, I'm your guy. I won't narrow it to one, so I'll be like Ari on the Rushmore of X, who comes up with 1,000 different ones. I don't know if you ever watched that. You should. But a couple: Tom Petty, Wrigley Field, for
Okay.
sure. I would have to say something country. So I'd say Cody Jinks at the Floribama, which is a little bar on the Alabama-Florida line.
Okay.
I would throw in original Outcasts.